And it's working.
Perfect.
Okay, great. I want to thank you guys though for coming to this meeting. And what I want to do is I want to start with a high level overview. And this is something that I work on. It's one of the very, very first things that I work on when I'm setting up the PMP. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I have it set up right here. Can you guys see okay? Or do you want to? Okay, so we're good. So actually the overview is, it really starts in October. When I end the process, we end the process in September. I'm going to start from the back and work my way forward. We end the process in September is when I give the final DOE report to Michelle Lee, which indicates how many, has everybody received a review? If they have not received a review, why? So we just really make sure that we track every person that should be eligible for a review. And if they haven't received one, it's usually because of an LOA or that sort of thing. And we just want to make sure that we're aware of every single person in the lab that is eligible. So that ends the process in September. So come October, what I start doing is I start looking at this timeline. And you'll notice the timeline will start in January and then it ends in September. Basically in October, I need to start kind of looking at getting things set up with the LD. And what I normally do is I try to get a meeting to get set up with the LD, preferably either early January at the latest, because what happens is we have to have the meetings. It used to be with Horst, but now obviously Horst is not here. Whoever the predecessor is going to be for Horst, we would get meetings set up with all of the ALDs to meet with Horst, Michael Brandt, and also with Mike Witherall. And they sit there and they discuss the calibrations of all of the ratings. In order to get those meetings to happen, I need to talk with Margaret, with Bill, basically all of the either chief of staff, all of that level that work with the with the director and so forth, so that they can then in turn talk to their administrative folks and start getting these meetings set up. One time I waited till February, it was too late. So they get pretty booked very quickly. And if you notice the ALD meetings, I'm going to show you this yellow box here in the corner in August. That's when they actually have to happen. So in order, if I were to just send out emails asking Margaret, hey, can you make sure, I just really have to formalize it. I notice that if we formalize it, we have this official meeting, we just talk about, when to get these meetings set up. And then it just seems to work better. So that's one of the first things I start doing is trying to get timelines.
I'm sorry, just to interrupt. You said you start this process
October.
in October. Yeah, got it.
So what I did last time, I think I just worked with Joelle to get everybody to get set up. That was the easiest thing to do because Joelle was able to talk with all of the other administrative staff and able to get everybody under one time frame that we could get a Zoom meeting. And it's about a 15-20 minute meeting. It's not a real long meeting. So once I kind of get that going, I start working on the timeline because again, it seems like October, you should have plenty of time until January, but because we have the holidays in there, you have, the Thanksgiving holiday, then we have the shutdown. It really condenses that time and it goes really, really fast. So again, so my main thing is I kind of get the first draft of this high level timeline together. I start looking at dates. I try to get this all completed before January 1st. Because here I complete the draft timeline after meeting with the directorate. So I must have had my meeting more than likely January 10th or so. And that's when I try to get early part of January. Then I start having timeline meetings with comp and IT. Really with comp, it's Karen, just to make sure that kind of what the merit increase and SIP process is gonna look like, how PMP, it kind of dovetails into the SIP process. It's the first domino that falls. And once we get the ratings, then the merits start. So I usually talk with Karen and I'd have a just kind of informal meeting with Luis and Karen and also with HRIS. So those are the main folks that you're gonna need to be working with throughout the whole process. IT is Luis, he's the one that handles the Google application. And HRIS is the one that provides all of the reporting, basically the lists of the employees that are eligible. And then they're the ones that also take care of the upload after.
Do you have a specific person that you work with from HRIS? Is it Sachin or is
I
it
usually start with Sachin and sometimes he'll delegate to others, but I always start with Sachin.
Okay.
And so, and then I'm going to give you some nuances later on about that, because as we found with Nina and I, as we're doing tracking spreadsheets and so forth, there are some areas that we need to make sure that we let you guys know how to look when you do receive your data, what to look for. So I'll get to that point after. So we work with them, we tell them this is more or less the timelines. Does this look reasonable? And with Sachin, what he's going to really want to be looking at is right here, HRIS, download eligible employees. So Sachin's going to be in this April timeframe. Luis will start working with me right away. So him and I start working together of getting everything as far as when his timelines will hit, because with Luis, things will start here at this point in March. So I have all these meetings in January, start getting the timeline, get it as solidified as I can. And then meanwhile, between January and March, for those 3 months, if I can do it sooner, I try to, is to work on the website, because you're constantly having to update things. Dates need to be updated, calendars need to be updated, and so forth. But this calendar is the main calendar that I kind of work off of, and then I make a bunch of other sub calendars that are a little bit more detailed than this one. Then come February, I will send the emails out for the HRDPs to start confirming who their division process owners are. So I'm going to show you a checklist. And Aditi, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of a division process owner or not.
I have, just in these meetings, or it would actually be helpful. Can we say what their responsibilities are exactly?
What I'm going to do for now, okay, like I said, we're going to kind of talk about, we're in February. I'm going to come over here to the performance management website and go in here into the HR DPO side. And again, this is where I made, I've really changed it in here. So if you go into division process owner, that's an area that's going to give you all the different phases. But say, for instance, you want to know what all the roles and responsibilities are. So if you just click onto this side here, you can click on any one of these links and it should tell you what their roles and responsibilities are. So if we click on division process owner for Google Docs, it'll tell us what they do. And they work with the division management, HR field staff to establish the division timelines and their requirements. So what you have going on is you have an HR division partner and a division process owner, and they're kind of working hand in hand with each other. Division HR business partners kind of making sure all of the policy and the guidelines and everything is being followed, and ratings and those sort of things. Division process owner tends to fall more on the process side. They're kind of making sure that the Google app is working correctly. All the information is uploaded like it should be. Sometimes you have a division HR division partner that can act as both. So they're both, they're watching the division's policy, guidance, and that sort of thing, and they're also behaving as a division process owner.
Okay, cool.
I have a question. Is there any requirement as far as what you need to be a division process owner?
Not really. It's usually just worked out within the divisions as to who they choose. So it's between, I think, the HR division partner, possibly sometimes business managers, as who they decide to be the division process owner.
But they can see everybody's review and rating, or is that only the HR person?
It depends. It depends on the division. Some divisions are very sticklers about not allowing division process owners to look at tracking sheets. Some of them will share with the division process owners, and that's the way that they work together. So the division process owner might help with the tracking spreadsheet, or they're locked out of the tracking spreadsheet. Then they have to talk with their HR division partner to make changes when needed.
So it's up to the division on how they want to determine the roles.
Right.
But the HR partner can basically see everything.
HR partner can see everything.
Okay.
Like in here with the tracking spreadsheets, right here, it's when we send them out, we share the tracking spreadsheet with we ask them to share the tracking spreadsheet with your division process owner if your division chooses. So yeah, so they have both. They have that option. So back in here, we send an email notification to the HRDPs to go ahead and confirm the DPOs. The email will give them access to the spreadsheet here. And this is a spreadsheet where we track everybody. We track all the divisions. We make sure that we have all the divisions there, no changes, because that can happen. We know who the senior HR division partner is, their email address. All these email addresses are important because we do use them in the app. So that goes in there, who their division partner, who's the assistant. We don't use extensions anymore. And then in here, this is your primary DPO and a backup DPO. And in some cases, they may even have a second backup. So when they fill out all this information here, we have a timeline of when this has to be completed. And they get notified when to have it completed. And we just kind of track it here and check off who's completed. Because after that, once we get everybody set up, then the DPO list will be shared with pre-filled data, which is this list here. And then they have the timeline to get it completed. The final date for them to confirm their DPOs. And then that's, we'll share the list with IT. So the checklist, this is the checklist update. So what we did in the past, it used to be 2 separate documents. And this year, Nina was like, why are we doing 2 different documents? Why don't we make it just one? I said, yeah, why not? So that's what we did this year and combined it and just made it different tabs. So this checklist here is important. This is what everybody will fill out. They're going to receive, like when we make a new one for next year, it's going to be identical to this. We'll just change the date up here. And then what they need to do is make any changes. So it's going to be pre-filled with the previous year's information. And here, the division partners, in the past, they used to have to fill this in, but now it's just pulling directly from this tab here. Our division name, this defaults to HRS level 1 name. So all of this information here, these are all your division settings that you're going to be putting inside the actual application. The contacts, when to allow release to supervisors, your division 1-ups. Right here, all of those addresses go in there. We asked to block supervisors from setting ratings, all different things for the setup that you can semi-customize. We talk about the email settings and customization. In here, I really wish I would have taken a recording of the last office hours that we had, because we did a whole training on how to set up the emails. And the emails that we receive when you get that, hey, it's PMP time to fill out your self-assessments. These emails are all set up in a draft account. Every division has access to these emails and they can customize those emails. And basically where they're located, it's in their Google email account. And if you click up here on Google account, mine doesn't have it because I don't have delegate emails, but it would list all these other accounts in here. And what the person would do is click onto that account, go into their drafts, and they'd see all the emails from previous years. From there, that's how they would get their email set up. So let's see, where am I at? Am I jumping ahead of myself? Oh, back on the checklist. So that's what they'd be doing here. Here's all your 1-up email exclusions. And then these would be your ratings editors. And the majority of time, ratings editors tend to be the HR division partners. Sometimes I think you might have, let's see if I can hear, you might have maybe a business manager, so forth, but this is where they'd fill all this piece in. So all of this information that's in here really goes into the actual app. And it's just a copy and paste from that point forward for the division partners and the DPOs. The rest of this tracking sheet here is what we do to kind of keep track of everything, how, what everybody's been doing. The checklist is complete, 28 out of 37. The checklist needs to be complete. Actually, we need to have everything uploaded by the 26th, which is next week. So right now, everybody's tracking spreadsheets have already been created, and we're waiting to get this data upload. So right now we have 8 out of 37. So this is where I have to start kind of cracking the whip. So anyway, that's a little bit about the checklist.
So this is a checklist that when you said you need to go in and make your edits, this is a checklist that people were going into then?
That's where they do the setup.
They do the setup, okay.
And I'm going to show you where the actual app is after. We'll go through that.
Got it.
So we're in March, they start the checklist update. So they should be setting this thing up in March and getting everything ready. Also in March is when I send the first notification for people to enter their employee status changes. So that's the thing that needs to happen. So anybody's going to be transferring, or if there's promotions or anything like that, that should be happening about mid-March. That's the first notification I give them. Then I do the timeline meeting about close to the end of March. And
Can I ask a question about that, about the notifications for employee status changes? So these are any status changes that are going to happen before April 1st, correct?
yes,
Because April 1st is basically
that's our cutoff.
cutoff time. Okay.
So let's see, then I do the timeline meeting, which I kind of just go through the timeline. I kind of break this thing up into segments so everybody's aware of what's going on. I think you guys, were you able to get to that meeting? If not, I have a recording of it. So that's also on the website. And then we kind of finalize the official timeline, because there has been times in the past that things got changed and we might have to make adjustments. So usually at this timeline meeting, I kind of finalize it there, to be honest with you. So come April is the month where we have a lot of things start happening, because this is now where Luis really has to start getting the app ready in the background. He starts running testing. And it's not just with Luis, he actually pulls a bunch of people from IT, and just to make sure that everything is running properly. So at this point, I give the roundtable and performance management process training. So it's a little bit about the process. We talk a little bit about, when, who's eligibility, a little bit about everybody's role, but I still don't really go into the actual application yet, because if you do it too early, they forget. And I'll be honest, when Nina's getting to learn this, it is such a manual and there's so many steps. Every year I answered almost the same identical questions, even though I'm getting them on the website as much as we can, but it's just something that there's so many different steps. And even some of my best people are still forgetting, because new things come up in the rest of the world, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, we're back again. So I try not to do the training too early because of that. So at this point here, now we're looking at April 19th. This is when everybody should have gotten their faculty list to me, because faculty are not required to have a performance review. Some divisions don't like having their, go ahead. Sure.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. You can complete the thought. I actually had a question on the last point you made, Pat.
Okay.
Do you have, I know because there's so many questions answered on the website, but in terms of the categories of the inquiries that you get, the things that you're saying, sort of people ask repeatedly, is there a way for us, I don't know.
We're working on FAQs, but I'll be honest with you, this is just my thoughts. It's not so much that, they don't know where to go look. I think sometimes they're just in the thick of things, and the easiest thing is to just lob an email over the wall.
Totally get that. I guess I'm curious, just even anecdotally, maybe later.
I think so.
When Amanda's here, if we could just have you look at, okay, this year, these were kind of the top concerns, then I think it's just something that we can try to manage. I agree with you. I think people will just send an email, but something like that, so we're kind of aware.
And the thing is, though, too, Aditi, right now, so far we've been getting a really good response with the new website. So I think if we keep pushing them that way and say, hey, we have a new section, FAQs. Last year, these are the kind of things that everybody's been asking, and Nina's been collecting those. So we're hoping to get those in there. And again, especially the same questions that are repetitive and, that sort of thing. So, and some of them they have some different things that come up every year. So you don't know what's going to come up, but those things, yes, I agree with that. We'll do our best to get the FAQs in, and I'm trying to keep that website. I told everybody it's a living document. The second you tell me there's something wrong, I am fixing it immediately. So, or adding it, or if there's something missing, that sort of thing. So anyway, in here, the deadline to enter the status changes. So like I said, I give them notification in March, but and with the deadline, but here is the actual deadline to get the status changes in is April 16th. Also in between this, I do send a notification about faculty to get me the list. There's usually a handful that comes through. Once I get that list of who the employees are, employee numbers, I give that list to Sachin. And then he makes sure that they have to manually add them into the actual data pool when they pull the HRS data. And the thing that's weird about the HRS data, I always thought it was like, hey, it's a query, it's no big deal. It's some very strange, I don't know exactly how they pull the data. They've tried to explain it to me, and I'm a data person. I completely understand data, and I'm just kind of like, whoa. So I know that there's an exchange back and forth between HRIS and UC Path. I'm not sure what kind of things may have happened this last year, but we really had to really go through the data extensively. And like, for instance, all our postdocs were missing. And that's, yeah, and that's, I mean, it was just different, because normally if we do have any kind of a data blip, it's kind of like, oh, the columns are in the wrong order. Oh, the label is, it should say this, but it says this. And I'm pretty sure it's UC Path. I'm sure it has a lot to do with this, but we took note of everything that we had to check and what was missing and what areas, like for instance, the SMGs were added in there. They should never be part of this, and I shouldn't have to clean them out. So those are the kind of things I'm going to give you guys a checklist, even as far as like employee counts. This is the count that we had the previous year. You should be off maybe 100 or so people, not 500. So
yeah, so Pat, that was going to be my question, because you're using terminology that's not going to make sense to new people, like SMGs and faculty and
yep.
postdocs. So I think a checklist as far as who is eligible for the performance review process, and then who is not eligible. So then when we get the list, we do know when we go to scrub it that, this makes sense.
Yeah,
and it's correct population, and somebody's not missing. That would be other thing. Yeah.
Either not missing or shouldn't be there.
Yeah, like limited. For example, let's say it pulls limited, they're not going to be eligible for it.
Right.
But I know that because I've been here a long time, but new people don't know that.
And
like the April 1st day. I don't even know if Aditi knows about the April 1st day. I just kind of so I think that I think it has to be, you'll have to document it in a way that people who are not familiar with the laboratory will be able to understand it.
And Rachel, I think, to be honest with you, what's going to be really convenient is that in here.
I was going to look at that. I was going to look at that too and check that out.
It gives you all of the timelines. It gives you all of the videos. And my first thing would be have this person watch every single video.
Yeah.
The video is going to give you the best view of everything that goes on. And these were all the training videos that we did. In this case, I think I kept the slides. I also did a version of the slides up here. So in here, really it's so comprehensive now. Everything that we're talking about is all in here. Calendars, they're located here. So all different flavors of calendar. And again, you guys can narrow this down. You don't want to keep this much. You don't have to. I'm not sure how much everybody uses, but those were recommendations from last time. And here's everybody's roles and responsibilities. So, things like this could be updated.
I did see that. That was helpful. I do have a question for on your key dates on your schedule. I see you use lucid charts.
Yes.
So I don't think we have lucid charts. So I think it's something, Aditi, just be mindful we need to probably get for ourselves and Amanda.
You can. Yeah, I'm actually just doing the computer request, so maybe I can just add that.
I think we need to purchase that. And then how do you come up with the dates on your calendar? What is the driver for those dates? Are you setting them based on your own calendar, or is there something else that's driving it besides like the meetings with the division or the lab director? Basically, it's previous dates. I take a look and kind of say, for instance, last year we did this at this time. What does that date look like for this year? Can I, is it going to land on a Saturday? Is it going to land on a Sunday? But really everything is driven by this June 1st date. So everything has to fit between that June 1st date and then here the HRS upload. Okay, got it. This upload is super critical because otherwise merit can't start. So this starts the SIP process right here. So those are your main, right here, all this in green, this is where all the action's happening. All the way up to that point, you're prepping for it, basically. So like I said, we did the eligibility, we did the download, and then the tracking spreadsheets. So the tracking spreadsheets, when that happens, I'm going to now jump into here because I think it'll make a little more sense if we go into here for the process owners. The first phase one, we don't have too much going on. I already kind of talked to you about that, and we could probably add more to that if you want to beef it up a little bit more.
I was just kind of popping things in there to break it up. But the next one, phase 2, is very beefy. So this is where all the app setup is going to be happening. I talk about areas to focus on. So I just basically just did a little cutout of the timeline, and I have it like in text over here off to the side. Make sure that we enter employee status changes. I didn't put any dates on here. It's up to you if you want to do that. But the thing is, you got to be careful if you start dating everything. Yeah, next year. Exactly. So that's one thing you want to kind of keep in mind. This here is the application kind of timeline setup of when we prepare for the process. All of that's happening prior to May 15th. So right now we're in the thick of this whole section here. So the checklist had been shared. The checklist actually should have all been already updated. When we sent out the tracking spreadsheets, they should have already been reviewed to make sure that all the eligible employees are on there. If there's an additional one-up reviewer, that's actually done on the tracking spreadsheet. And division directors need to be marked. With the division, I think that you put a Y in the column that asks if they're a division director in column D, so that they get the proper form. So all of that should have already been added at this point or been completed. Right now, DPOs are modifying previous year's emails. The other thing, you guys, if one of you can make it to one of our office hours, you'll find out the questions that are being asked. Because this is where we kind of do one-on-one, and it's something that, like today, we did a whole thing on how to set up the delegate emails. It was Debbie Tan. She was new. She came after the PMP started, so she's like, I'm totally new. I don't know what to do, and her DPO is new. So we get those folks that show up during our office hours. So right now they should be filling in and modifying. Well, the checklist should have been done. Any review and modifying the tracking spreadsheet, and then. Well, that's already done the HR. So what I'm going to do is show you what they're doing right now. They're trying to get the app set up right now. Go to here. And I'll just go into the Accelerator Tech right now. I'm going to go into the process owner page. Oh, look it, we have data. This is nice. Okay. Where they're at, this particular area division looks like they have everything done, which is great. Because otherwise, if you go into the home page normally, it'd just be blank. We wouldn't see any names or anything in here. Same for employee data, it would all be blank. So what they're working on or trying to get completed before the 26th of next week is getting this whole thing set up. So in here, it gives you step-by-step instructions of exactly what to do. So the first thing, they're going to enter the division settings. You click on here. And if you notice at the bottom, it gives you like where to click on the division setting button below. And this is where I showed you that checklist, all of that stuff that they entered. They're going to go from that checklist and they're going to start copying and pasting that information into here, also into here. So once they get all of this in here, they would save changes. And then that step 1 would be done. Step 2, it talks about setting up the emails. Those are the ones I told you that are actually in your Google app or in their Google app, where they have the delegate email accounts. And from there, they have to get all those emails set up. They select the email drafts for their divisions, and they change the dates. They change any other information that their division wants to have added in their email. They save the changes, and then they can send test emails from here. So when the email settings, let's see what we have here. They would click onto here and choose it. It looks like this one wasn't done actually, because we should see like FY21 or something like that. So this person, they've gotten all the way to the point, but they haven't finished this piece here. So once they have they've chosen their different emails. Let me show one more time. First one is for the employee self-assessment email. Then they have a supervisor draft review email. And then the third one is the employee supervisor released email. And those are all drafts that, like I said, they get updated every year. So once they finish that, they go back, verify their tracking spreadsheet, make sure everything, they work with the HR division partner, because again, this is kind of DPO job right here. This is where the division process owners are working. They're going to make sure that the tracking spreadsheets are accurate, because all to the last minute, oh, so-and-so, we just realized they transferred, and then they have to contact the other division the person transferred to, make sure that they put them in their division, and then remove them from the old division. So all of that, once they get that everything is up to date, then, and they verify their tracking spreadsheets, they move forward. What they then do is they contact us at PMP support, and they give Luis the okay. They say, hey, everything's been verified, all our data is good, do the upload. So Luis will then upload the data, and at this point, let's see, do I have it still? At this point, this is where we're at right now. Go to the checklist. And this is where Luis starts tracking who has been uploaded. Right here on AA. So right now we have 8 out of 37 that have been uploaded. So once they get the, hey, upload, we're good. Luis will come back and verify your upload has uploaded. If there's no errors, we're good. They go back, they validate their information. Sometimes when he does the upload, there can be errors. For whatever reason, maybe they took somebody off the sheet. Just something can happen that the sheet needs to be corrected. Luis will go back, he'll tell the HR division partner, you need to correct the sheet. Once they've corrected it, they go back, they tell him again, upload, they upload again. So, and that can happen, it's no big deal. It's fast, it's simple. This is the place to make all the changes. This is kind of the sweet spot where all the changes should happen. Once he does the upload, he asks them to validate. They validate the information. Does everybody have the proper review form? Is everybody, in their list should be there? They come back to Luis and they say validated, and then they share the prior year reviews. So we have to go through this through 37 divisions. Every single division has to be accounted for. And once all the reviews are shared and all of this is ready to go, like I said, next week on the 26th is when we're going to have, that's the end date, that's the cutoff. The 27th, Luis starts actually creating the review forms. So as if this point, we don't actually have the review forms where the tracking sheet information, like the name of the employee and so forth, has not been merged into the form, and multiple forms been created. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I did the Google Docs webinar. Again, you can find that in here. If you go to the bottom, this, like I said, it'll give you step by step when you get the tracking sheets, what do you have to do with them? Setting up the Google app, what I just showed you right now, it goes into completing the checklist, division settings, email settings, ratings editor settings, customizing emails. So all of this will process owner page. It tells you exactly what to do. So even making changes, there's a whole section in here, just making different kind of changes, adding, removing a reviewer, division transfers, review status changes. So it really covers a lot in here, but as we're learning more, we're going to just keep adding to it. And then at the tail end here is where I keep all the video trainings and recorded meetings and slides. So this was a really good one, the Google App Setup meeting. Highly recommend this one. A lot of people are using it right now to help them get set up. The other thing too, they're actually utilizing the website. Somebody was telling me, they go, I have the website open on one side and I'm just, following the instructions because it talks about how to set up the Google app and so forth. So any questions so far? So again, that's where we're at right now.
Question, as far as setting up the Google app and changes, like if something needs to change, like you're going through that process flow, is that something that you work with Luis on? He tells you what to do, or does he update that himself on that page? Like if something changes?
As far as this, this up here?
No, the page B, I guess it's the one before that, where you're kind of going through the flow. You were going through the example with
in the actual app itself. This one.
In the actual app itself, yeah.
Yeah. In the setup.
So is this something that Luis does?
No, this is what the division process owners do this.
No, but I mean, who set this up so that the division process owners could do that? Is this something that Luis has set up, or is,
yeah.
Okay.
Luis sets it up now. There's another area that I do set up. It's It's part of what we get off the checklist too. So now I'm in PMP LBL.gov. I'm in the admin page. So this is actually the page that Luis would use to do the setup. This, as you notice, you have your divisions. So I can tell how many divisions do we have so far that I've uploaded. I can look at this and tell exactly who they are. So prior to all of this, let's see, was it in here? Modify permissions. Yes. This is a setup that we would do. So this is a setup that the person taking over PMP would do. And we have our process owners and ratings editors. If we go back to the checklist, it's all in here.
It's all based on the main spreadsheet that the
Yes.
division process owners are updating.
This is what they're updating over here, which is flowing into here.
Got it.
So
Okay.
process owners, we always put division partners and the process owners. And then I would copy and paste. I think, I thought he made a combo one for me somewhere. And then the ratings editors here, because this is something that's kind of new. So what I would do is we have the division name. I would then click onto this here, copy and paste it in here. Copy, paste it in here, allow viewer editor, and then just save changes. So this is part of when we get the tracking sheets, because the tracking sheets, what will happen is you'll get this one big file from Sachin, and he asked me to review that file. And then Luis and I kind of review that file. From there, once we think it's good, Luis takes that file, he uploads it, and he creates the tracking sheets, which is something that happens automatically. So when the tracking sheets are created, Nina and I then go in there and you have to share them individually. So when they're shared individually, you go through all of that process. See, now this is some background stuff that we don't have on the website. And this is the stuff that Nina's been documenting, and she's tracking.
Perfect, because that's what Amanda's going to be doing, and it's
Yes.
very involved. That's why I was asking the questions. I'm like, there's a lot of details here
There is a lot
Again,
of details.
that's behind the scenes that the HR and the division process owner doesn't know, because you're serving as the admin for the app.
Right.
And so it sounds to me like there's a component that Luis does. And then at some point, when you get data, you and Luis have to look at it together.
Yes. That's
That would be helpful to know too, Nina, if you're helping documenting kind of like the frequency of, when Luis is coming in. I'm guessing you and Luis are working together pretty frequently.
Oh, yeah.
Especially during the March, April, May setup. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yep. And what usually I start doing is I usually touch base with him a little bit. I kind of leave him alone for a while because it's intense. And both of us need a little break, right? But usually it's about December-ish. It's kind of like, hey, knock on the door. How's it going, Luis? And then we start having meetings every other week. And they're pretty rigged. We just set them up. And then sometimes, hey, we don't need it. There's nothing going on right now. Other times it's like right now we are meeting religiously. I mean, every time we have a meeting, and we use all the time.
Like we were changing the language for the template.
Oh, yeah.
And we're in chat the whole time. We have our, our group chat.
Right. We have a group
questions
chat going
and,
on, and then things happen, like when what happened was in the last meeting, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm doing the training. And somebody said, yeah, I noticed that, the rating, the new rating, solid performance, it wasn't on the drop-down list. It says valuable. So do we just use that for now and just assume it's solid? I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, well, thank you for pointing that out. We don't want to do that, but so we'll make sure that gets correct. And I mean, you should have seen, oh my gosh, I'm up until, I don't know, God hours of the night, but this is an area for Luis's template. He thought he had changed it, I mean, so those kind of things happen. The other thing that came up, I didn't even realize this, when we made that rating change, which everybody thought, no big deal, change it on the forum. Well, we had to change the forum, it changes programming, it changes, remember even Sachin was like, let me know because it changes his world. And then there was other areas we didn't think about. The examples that we have out there, we have example forums, they all have the old rating. So I don't know, as of right now, I'll be dirt honest with you, Rachel, my bandwidth is non-existent. With Karen, with Matthew leaving, I am heavily going into comp at this time too. So that's an area I was like, if I can make a quick fix, I'll do it. I can maybe, I don't know if you want to talk to David, because David actually, because what I call the front end of the PMP website, I don't really touch that. I think we did just kind of the original conversion, got it moved over, tried to make a little bit of sense out of it, but I really spent all my time on the back end. So I don't know if maybe,
Right.
yeah, maybe talk with David to look at the new one that we have. I did update the new one. If you go into the non-represented, let's see.
And Pat, just to confirm, Dave has been managing the front end. That's my understanding too. Yeah.
Yes, he has been. So he'll totally know what you're talking about. Right in here it says non-represented. I think I already had him fix this for me. Let's see. Employee resources. And right here, it says the new annual. It actually is the new annual. It is the most current one. I had Dave take care of that for me. So, but the other parts, let's see, where are we in here? There's some examples apparently in here. I can send you the email of the person that sent it to me. Is it in here maybe? Oh, here's some self-assessment examples. So, I mean, it's up to you whether you feel that, we should, because it's a 2017. And I know too, I just didn't have the time to update a lot of this stuff. So the summary, all of this is going to be different. Remember, Rachel, that they moved the performance summary to the last part of so these are completely different. So what we could possibly do, I don't know if you want to try to copy and paste them over.
I'm not too worried about that. Yeah, I'm not too worried about that. And maybe we can put a disclaimer that your current form may look a little bit different, but it still follows the same model, because there's also the idea statement that's broader and the safety one is broader. So rather than trying to, create I mean, I think it's just an example.
Okay.
And it gives people, an idea of what we're looking for if they have questions. Do we know how many people are actually going in and looking at the samples?
I don't know how
analytics on here.
Yeah, you might have to talk to David on that. I don't have any analytics on this, but maybe Dave can help by putting a little disclaimer next to these little self-assessments, say in the form, maybe, what I'm saying, on the outer part, so that if you click on it, they know off the top the form is different, or
We'll just check with Dave to see if we have analytics set up. It's not hard. It's not hard to do. So.
Yeah. I think that would be, it was just something that was brought up. So I just wanted to also to mention that. Let's see where we're at. We have 10 more minutes. So let's see, this is where we're at right now. We're all in this May until the official launch. So the app, we're trying to capture all of this back end stuff, because that's where I told, Nina, it's good that she doesn't know it as well. So she's seen it with a very fresh set of eyes. Thank you so much, Nina, because she's asking all the right questions, because somebody who's never done it versus me and Luis, it's gotten to the point he can almost barely talk to me. I know exactly what he wants and how to fix it and so forth. So that's the other areas to think about. So yeah, as soon as this person starts, the better. We'll just stick them in the background, let them shadow, let them watch, let her attend whatever meetings we have going on. And I think we have one more. Let me see. I think we might have one more office hour meeting coming up, but I try to keep them going during times that they're going to be doing some kind of an action with the app.
So most likely she won't be touching this for the first 2 weeks, because we want to have her feet get wet. And then what we can do is have her just we'll walk her through the page as far as being a division process owner and was with so just to get acclimated.
Yes.
Because otherwise it's not going to make any sense at all. And so I'm always very cautious of people going to meetings and then not having a clue, because it does not make for a good experience. So I always say 2 weeks, no meetings, you're going to learn, and you're going to want to do